I've been married to Jessica for 7 years. We were the couple everyone envied, the perfect blend of romance and stability. Our friends often joked we were the golden couple. But looking back now, I see the cracks in the facade we built together. It wasn't just the little arguments or her late nights out with the girls that should have raised red flags. It was my gut feeling, the disquieting whispers of doubt I ignored for too long. Jessica always had a flair for the dramatic. She thrived on attention, and her social media was a highlight reel of our life together. Photos of us at fancy dinners, trips to the beach, all smiles and loving captions. But beneath that polished surface, I began to sense a shift. Little things, a text that was just too quick to dismiss, an unusual frequency of late-night work calls, and that new perfume she started wearing. I chalked it up to paranoia, possibly a side effect of my own insecurities. I loved her, after all. Why would she cheat? Then came the day that shattered my world. I was at home, mindlessly browsing the web, when my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah, Jessica's sister. She rarely contacted me directly, so I was surprised when I saw her name flash on the screen. "I need to talk to you about Jess. It's important. Can you meet me?" My heart raced. What could possibly be so urgent? I agreed to meet her at a nearby coffee shop. Sarah arrived looking concerned, her brow crinkled with worry. We exchanged pleasantries, but I could feel the tension in the air. "I just want to be upfront with you," she said. "I heard something from Jess the other night, and I can't keep it to myself." I must have looked confused because she took a deep breath and continued. "She was bragging to me about how she's been getting away with it, her words, not mine." In that moment, the world around me pulled back, and I could barely hear her voice over the pounding in my chest. "Getting away with what?" I asked, my heart sinking. Sarah's discomfort was palpable as she leaned closer. "She's been seeing someone else. I don't know the details, but she sounds really into him." The room spun as the weight of her words sank. My mind raced through memories of our life together, the late nights, the excuses, the suppressed doubts. I felt a rush of emotions, anger, disbelief, and a deep, gnawing betrayal. I thanked Sarah for telling me, but I was in a daze. My mind was already racing to how I would confront Jessica. Later that night, I returned home, my heart a knotted mess. Jessica was sprawled on the couch, engrossed in a reality show. I tried to act normal, but I couldn't shake the weight of knowledge hanging over me. As I sat down next to her, I could feel my hands shaking. "Hey," she said casually, not bothering to look up from the screen. "How was your day?" I felt the burning need to confront her, but I hesitated. I had to play this carefully. I was ready to unravel the lies she had woven into our lives. "I had a talk with Sarah today," I said casually, testing the waters. Her eyes flicked to me, a slight tension tightening her features. "Oh, really? What about?" "About you," I replied, watching her carefully. The facade of the perfect wife cracked for just a moment as her expression shifted from casual to defensive. "What have you been up to, Jess?" Her immediate reaction, an eye roll, then laughter, made my blood boil. "You know Sarah is always dramatic. She loves to stir the pot. You can't believe everything she says." I leaned in closer, my voice low and steady. "She said you were bragging about getting away with something. Care to explain?" Jessica's smile faltered, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes, the realization that her lies were unraveling. "You know how she gets," she replied weakly, but I wasn't having it. The denial, the lies, it all spilled out in torrents from her. She claimed that Sarah misunderstood, that she was just joking about the idea of getting away with it. I felt like I was in a surreal nightmare, the truth dangling just out of reach. I needed proof. I needed to know the extent of her betrayal. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me further, not after what I'd learned. I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. The emotional roller coaster was just beginning, and it wouldn't end until I knew the truth, whatever it was going to cost me. I felt the flames of anger ignite within me, and I was ready to seek my own form of justice. The moment I discovered the affair was just the beginning of my journey into betrayal, deceit, and ultimately, revenge. The days following my confrontation with Jessica were a blur of tension and heartache. I was on high alert, my mind racing with every interaction. I felt like I was living in a twisted thriller where I was both the detective and the victim. I tried to play it cool, to act as though nothing was wrong, but every passing moment felt like an eternity. the weight of her possible infidelity looming over me like a dark cloud. I started to notice small signs. Her phone, which she used to keep close, now seemed to slip from her grasp. She was more preoccupied with it than ever, texting quickly, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. I needed to see those messages. I needed to know who this other person was. I set a plan in motion. I decided to follow her one evening. She claimed she was going out with friends, but I had a gut feeling that this wasn't just a casual night out. I waited until she left, watching her get into her car and drive away. I followed at a distance, heart pounding, every thought racing through my mind. My stomach twisted in knots as I realized how desperate I had become for the truth. She drove across town to a trendy bar, a place I wouldn't have expected her to visit. I parked a couple of blocks away and walked up to the entrance, trying to appear nonchalant. I stepped inside, scanning the crowd for her familiar figure. It didn't take long to spot her. She was at a small table in the back, laughing merrily with a guy I didn't recognize. He was leaning in closer than I would have liked, his hand brushing against hers as they shared a drink. It was like a punch to the gut. Every laugh, every smile, felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. I fought the urge to confront her right then and there. Instead, I slipped out of the bar, my mind racing with the implications of what I had just witnessed. They weren't just friends. The chemistry between them was palpable, and it confirmed my worst fears. I needed proof, something undeniable that I could confront her with. I decided to take a risk. I used my phone to snap a couple of pictures from a distance, capturing the two of them together. It felt invasive, but it was necessary. I needed to be armed with evidence when I confronted her again. The next day, I sat on the couch, the photos taken the night before feeling like a weight in my pocket. The thought of showing her the truth terrified me, but I knew I couldn't let her play me for a fool any longer. Each moment spent in silence with her felt like a countdown to the inevitable explosion. That evening, I decided to confront her again. It was a Saturday night, and I could tell she was trying to act normal, making dinner, humming to herself, as if her world hadn't just shattered mine. I waited until we sat down to eat, and that's when I decided to break the silence. "Jess, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but my heart raced. "About what? You've been so moody lately," she replied, her tone dismissive. "About us, about you." Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of fear crossing her face again. "What's going on, Brian?" I pulled out my phone, my hands clammy as I displayed the photos I had taken. "You mean what's going on with you?" The color drained from her face as she stared at the images, her denial evaporating in an instant. "Where did you get those? This isn't what it looks like." I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand the truth, but I held it together. "It sure looks like you're having a great time with someone else." Her excuses came pouring out in a frantic rush. "He's just a friend. We were talking about work. You know how stressful things have been for me." I felt the anger bubble up inside me, boiling over into rage. "A friend? The way you're looking at him and the way he's touching you says otherwise." Jessica's feigned innocence crumbled, and I could see anger and fear flash across her face. "You're being unreasonable. You're just trying to make me feel guilty." I was done with her lies. "I'm not the one who's cheating, Jess. You've been lying to me for who knows how long." The confrontation escalated, voices rising until she finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, to having feelings for someone else. It felt like a punch to the gut. I had been right all along, but hearing her confess made it all the more painful. As tears streamed down her face, she tried to paint herself as the victim, claiming I had been distant, that I was the reason she felt lonely. I felt a mix of anger and sorrow as I listened to her excuses. Deep down, I knew she was manipulating the narrative to shift the blame onto me. I needed to end this cycle of deceit. "I can't do this anymore, Jessica. You've betrayed my trust. I deserve better than this." Her pleas fell on deaf ears. I was beyond the point of listening to her sob stories. I was hurt, shocked by her betrayal, but something inside me felt more resolute than ever. I had to take control of my life, my heart. As I stepped away from that confrontation, I knew I had a decision to make, one that would change everything. I was left with an aching heart, but I refused to be broken by her actions. It was time to take my life back and figure out how to move forward, however painful the road ahead might be. The emotional turmoil of betrayal was only just beginning, and the journey toward acceptance and revenge would lead me down a path I never expected to tread. The aftermath of my confrontation with Jessica felt like a whirlwind. I had accused her of infidelity, and while the confrontation was necessary, it left me reeling. The house felt colder, emptier. I spent the next few days in a haze, juggling anger and sadness. My mind was racing with thoughts of betrayal, and I felt like I was in a fog, moving through life without clarity. Jessica tried to reach out to discuss things, but I wasn't ready to hear her sob stories. Every time she opened her mouth to speak, I felt the anger bubbling back to the surface. I was angry with her, but I was equally angry with myself for allowing things to get this far. I should have trusted my instincts earlier. I should have acted sooner. One evening, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. I needed to think, to strategize. As I strolled through the quiet neighborhood, I reflected on our relationship, the good and the bad. The memories felt tainted now, like a beautiful painting smeared with black paint. I remembered our wedding day, the joy, the laughter, the promises we made to each other. The vows felt like a mockery now. How could she throw it all away for a moment of thrill? What kind of person does that? The thought sent a jolt through me, igniting my anger once more. I returned home, determined to shift my focus. I couldn't let her keep me in this state of limbo. I needed a plan, not just for my own healing, but also for revenge. She had turned our life into a game, and I was going to make sure I played it my way from here on out. I began to gather evidence. I combed through her belongings while she was at work, searching for clues, text messages, receipts, anything that could give me insight. I found an old wallet tucked away in a drawer with a picture of us from years ago, but also a crumpled piece of paper with a name and a phone number scrawled on it. My stomach twisted as I realized this was likely the name of her friend. The thought of some guy having the audacity to step into our lives made my blood boil. That evening, after I found the number, I felt a mix of determination and discomfort. I needed to confront this guy. I wanted him to know exactly what he was getting himself into. I wanted him to understand the consequences of his actions. I decided to text the number, posing as Jessica, feigning interest and setting up a meet. My heart raced as I typed, but I felt a sense of empowering purpose wash over me. It didn't take long for him to respond. "Hey Jess, great to hear from you. Are we still on for tomorrow?" The casual tone made my blood boil, but I kept my cool, typing back, "Of course. Let's meet at the same place around 7. I could feel the pieces falling into place. I was going to confront him, and I needed to make a statement. It was time to put an end to this ridiculous charade. The next day, I played the part of the dutiful husband, acting as if everything was normal with Jessica. She had spent the entire day talking about mundane plans and future events. I was barely listening, my mind racing with the impending confrontation. When evening rolled around, I dressed carefully, wanting to project an air of confidence. I arrived early at the bar where I had arranged to meet him, my heart pounding as I found a spot where I could see the entrance. I needed to get this right. When he walked in, my heart raced. He was taller than I expected, charismatic with an easy smile. He scanned the room looking for Jessica, but I stepped forward, intercepting him before he could find her. "You're looking for Jessica, right?" I said with a calmness that surprised even me. He turned, confusion clouding his face. Yeah, are you here with her?" I couldn't help but smile at the irony. "You could say that, I'm her husband." The color drained from his face. His mouth opened and closed as he scrambled for words. "I didn't know." "I bet you didn't," I interrupted, my voice low and steady. "You think it's just fun and games, don't you, that you can just waltz into my life without any consequences?" He stammered, trying to justify himself. "I thought she was single, she told me." "Of course she did," I scoffed. "That's her go-to line. Do you think you're the first guy she's pulled this on?" I watched as realization hit him. The guilt, the shame, it all played across his face. "I'm sorry, man, I thought." "Yeah, well, now you know," I said. "I don't care about your apologies. You've crossed a line you can't uncross. Stay away from her, I mean it." I felt a rush of satisfaction as I watched him squirm, the power dynamics shifting in my favor. For so long I had felt like I was losing control of my life, but in that moment I was reclaiming it. "Don't contact her again. She's made her choice." Now it's your turn to make yours, I said, turning to leave. I had made my point, and as I walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Returning home, I took a deep breath, feeling adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was still angry, still hurt, but for the first time in days, I felt like I was moving forward. It was time to take control of my life and consider what I wanted beyond revenge. I began to contemplate the next steps in my journey, whether it meant seeking closure, the possibility of leaving, or rebuilding. Whatever it was, I was ready to face it head-on. The confrontation with Jessica's friend had been cathartic, but it didn't erase the pain of the betrayal. I returned home that night, feeling a mixture of triumph and a lingering emptiness that gnawed at me. Jessica was still oblivious to my encounter, still caught up in her world of lies. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized I needed to confront her again, not about her lover, but about us. The next day, I decided to lay everything on the table. I felt a sense of calm determination as I mentally prepared myself for what was to come. We needed to have a real conversation, one that stripped away the pretense and got to the heart of our failing marriage. As I sat at the dinner table that evening, the atmosphere felt heavy. Jessica was chattering away about some trivial matter, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I could see her trying to act normal, but every laugh felt forced, every smile a mask. "Jess," I said, interrupting her mid-sentence, "we need to talk." She looked up, the smile fading from her face as she sensed the seriousness in my tone. "About what?" "About us. About everything that's happened." Her demeanor shifted immediately, hands fidgeting in her lap. "Brian, can't we just forget about it? I know things got out of hand, but I'm trying to move forward." "Move forward?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You mean move forward from your lies? Move forward from the guy you've been cheating on me with? How do you expect me to just pretend everything's fine?" I watched as the color drained from her face, the reality of our situation dawning on her. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake. I was lonely. You have to understand." "Understand? You think I'm supposed to sympathize with you after you've broken my trust, after shattered our marriage?" Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but I was done with her emotional manipulation. I needed to approach this with clarity and strength. "You need to tell me the truth. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, and I could see her weighing her options. "A few months," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "A few months," I echoed, my heart racing. "So while I've been working hard to support us, you've been sleeping with someone else?" Tears streamed down her face. "I was unhappy, Brian. I felt neglected, and he made me feel good again. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want any of this." I felt the fury rise again. "This isn't about me, Jess. This is about you not being able to communicate, to take responsibility for your actions. You didn't have to cheat. You could have come to me." "I know," she said, her voice cracking. "I just got lost in it all. I thought I could make it work without hurting you." "Look where that got you," I said, feeling a mix of sympathy and anger. "Your thinking was selfish, and now we're here. I can't just put this behind me." She reached across the table, grasping my hand. "Please, Brian, I love you. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this. We can go to therapy. We can try to make this work." I withdrew my hand, the warmth that once filled it now replaced with disgust. "You've already made your choice, Jess. You've chosen him over me. My heart tells me to walk away, but part of me wants to fight for what we had." The silence that hung between us was suffocating. I felt my heart breaking a little more as I looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of genuine remorse, but all I found were tears and desperation. "Tell me, Jess," I said, my voice steady but trembling. "What do you want? Do you truly want to save this marriage, or do you want to keep playing games?" "I want to save it," she insisted, her voice rising. "I'm willing to do anything. Anything." I challenged, my heart racing with the thought of what I was about to say. "How about we take a break? I need time to think, time to figure out what I truly want." That seemed to catch her off guard. "A break? You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious. I can't continue living like this, and I can't trust you right now. I need to focus on myself for a while." The realization hit her like a freight train. "You're really going to walk away?" "Not walk away, Jess. Just step back for a moment. I need space to clear my head." The anger in her eyes turned to desperation as she tried to plead her case. "You'll regret this, Brian. I swear I'll make things right, just give me time. But I felt resolute. I stood up from the table, needing to create physical distance between us. I can't promise I'll come back. You need to figure out who you want to be without me, and I need to figure out how to rebuild myself without you. The tears streamed down her cheeks as I walked away from the table, leaving her sitting there, a shadow of the woman I once loved. I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The decision to take a break felt monumental, yet necessary. I spent the next few days in a state of contemplation. I focused on myself, took time to reflect on my feelings, on what I truly wanted from the relationship. The emotional turmoil of betrayal still lingered, but I felt a sense of empowerment as I learned to prioritize my own needs for once. As I navigated through this dark chapter, I realized that healing would take time. I had to face my emotions, confront my pain, and eventually decide whether I wanted to give Jessica another chance or find a way to move on completely. Either way, I felt a newfound strength surging within me, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away. The break was both freeing and terrifying. The silence in the house was deafening, and there were moments when I'd catch myself missing Jessica. It was strange to feel that way after everything that had happened, but the memories of our good times were still vivid. I found myself reflecting on what love really meant and whether it was enough to mend the rift in our marriage. As the days turned into weeks, I began to establish a routine. I focused on my health, hit the gym, and tried to reconnect with friends I had somewhat neglected during our marriage. I found solace in the company of others, and the laughter and support reminded me that I was not alone. Friends reached out, concerned but supportive, willing to help me navigate this difficult time. I also started seeing a therapist. It felt strange at first, pouring my heart out to a stranger, but it quickly became a safe space for me to explore my feelings and process the betrayal. My therapist encouraged me to examine my emotions and helped me articulate what I wanted moving forward. I often left our sessions feeling a little lighter, like I was peeling away the layers of pain that had accumulated over the years. During this period, I started considering the possibility of divorce. The thought scared me, but the idea of staying in a relationship built on lies felt equally daunting. I thought about what I wanted for my future. Could I envision a life with Jessica again? The answer wavered as I weighed my options. One evening, I decided it was time to meet with Jessica again. I was nervous but knew we couldn't linger in this limbo forever. I chose a small cafe where we had shared countless cups of coffee and quiet moments before everything fell apart. I arrived early, ordering a black coffee as I prepared myself mentally for whatever conversation lay ahead. Jessica arrived a few minutes later, her expression a mixture of hope and uncertainty. She looked different, almost fragile, and it struck me just how much this situation had affected her. There was no bravado, no dismissive laughter, just a woman facing the fallout of her choices. "How have you been?" she asked tentatively as she sat down. "I've been okay," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "I've had some time to think." "Me too," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I've done a lot of reflecting. I know I messed up and I'm sorry. I want to make things right." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Jessica, it's not just about saying sorry. It's about understanding the depth of what happened. You can't just erase the betrayal." "I know that. I've been going to therapy too. I want to understand why I did it, why I felt so alone," she replied, her voice trembling. "And do you understand?" I pressed, looking for sincerity in her eyes. "I'm trying. I thought you didn't care anymore, that you'd gotten too busy with work. I felt disconnected, neglected. I'm not going to lie. I know I got caught up in my career, but we could have talked about it. You didn't have to cheat." Jessica nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I realize that now. I was selfish. I let my feelings cloud my judgment, and I hurt the one person I should have trusted the most." Her vulnerability was disarming. I could see she was genuinely remorseful, but part of me still felt a wall between us, a chasm created by her choices. "What do you want, Jess? Do you really want to try again? Because I need to know that you're willing to put in the work. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," she said, her voice firm. "I love you and I don't want to lose you. I understand if you need time." I hope we can find a way back to each other." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared history, both good and bad, hanging between us. I felt the urge to reach out to comfort her, but I hesitated, unsure of where I stood. "I don't want to rush into anything," I finally said. "I need to protect myself, and I need to see real change from you. If we're going to rebuild, it has to be built on honesty, transparency, and commitment from both of us." "I promise, Brian. I'll be transparent. I'll communicate my needs and feelings," she insisted, her voice steady. "I can't expect you to trust me again right away, but I will earn it back. I'll show you that I can be the wife you deserve." Her words resonated with me, but I still felt the weight of uncertainty. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. I needed to guard my heart while also being open to the possibility of healing. "I think it's going to take time," I replied slowly. "Maybe we can start with small steps, some counseling together, maybe even a trial separation where we can see if things improve." Her eyes lit up at my suggestion, and I could see a glimmer of hope. "I'd like that. I honestly want to work on this. You mean everything to me." As we continued to talk, I felt a mixture of emotions: hope, fear, and skepticism. It was a small step forward, but it was the first step towards healing. That evening, I went home feeling lighter. The conversation wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. I realized that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but I was willing to take it one day at a time. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was taking control of my future, whatever path that might lead me down. Over the next few weeks, Jessica and I worked on rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. We attended couples therapy together, and it was humbling to share our feelings in a safe space. The therapist guided us through our conversations, preventing the old patterns of blame and defensiveness from re-emerging. It was hard, but it forced both of us to confront uncomfortable truths. I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the woman who was passionate, driven, and vulnerable. Jessica opened up about her struggles, her loneliness during my long work hours, and her feelings of inadequacy. It was painful to hear, but it helped me understand the cracks that had formed in our relationship before the affair. In turn, I began to share my own feelings of neglect and the pressures I felt to provide for us. I realized that I had prioritized my career over our relationship, and I had also allowed the distance to grow without acknowledging it. Therapy forced us to communicate openly and honestly, and although it was uncomfortable, it felt necessary. As we dug deeper, there were moments of confrontation and tears. One session, Jessica broke down about the affair, expressing profound regret. "I never wanted to hurt you, Brian. I was selfish. I'm working on myself, but I need you to know that I know I'm the one who ruined everything," she confessed. Hearing her admit her wrongs helped heal some of my wounds. I felt a mixture of sympathy and anger. It was hard to reconcile the love I had for her with the betrayal that had shattered our marriage. But I began to realize that if we were to move forward, I needed to forge a path built on honesty and understanding, rather than anger. After several sessions, I started to see a shift. Our laughter returned, and the warmth between us gradually ignited. We began to do things together, rekindling the sparks that had once drawn us together. We took weekend trips, started cooking together, and made a conscious effort to engage in meaningful conversations about our dreams and goals. Yet there were still moments of doubt. I'd catch myself replaying the memories of her betrayal in my mind, the images of her with another man invading my thoughts. The pain was still there, lurking beneath the surface. I communicated this to Jessica, and she listened, offering reassurance. "I know it's hard, but I promise to be here and do everything I can to show you I'm committed to us," she said one evening, her sincerity shining through. Slowly, I began to believe her. The more we engaged in our healing process, the more I realized that our love wasn't entirely lost. It was just buried beneath layers of pain and misunderstanding. Each small step we took felt like a victory, and I began to admire her resolve to change. One day, as we sat across from each other at dinner, I looked at her and felt a warmth wash over me. "Jess, I know it's not perfect and I still struggle some days, but I see you trying and I appreciate that." Her face lit up with a smile, and I could see the hope in her eyes. "I'll keep trying, Brian. I love you, and I'm committed to making this work." As the months went by, the memories of betrayal started to fade, replaced by the creation of new ones. We faced challenges, of course, but now we approached them together, united rather than divided. I learned to express my feelings without fear, and Jessica became more open about hers. Eventually, I decided to take a leap of faith and officially forgive Jessica, not just for her sake but for my own. Holding on to resentment would only weigh me down. I wanted to move forward, and I realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant releasing the hold of the past so we could build a future together. That summer, we took a trip to the beach, a place we had visited often in happier times. As we walked along the shore, I took her hand, feeling the warmth of the sun on our skin. It was a moment of clarity. I could see a future for us again, and though it would take time, we were on the right path. I learned that relationships are complicated, and sometimes the hardest battles are fought within ourselves. I had to confront my own vulnerabilities, face the depths of my emotions, and ultimately embrace the possibility of love, even after betrayal. As we walked along the water, I realized that while the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, we were willing to traverse it together. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of hope and resolve. We were imperfect, but we were committed to growing, a promise I cherished deeply. And as the waves crashed softly against the shore, I felt a sense of peace. Despite the challenges we faced, we were forging a new path, one built on honesty, trust, and a renewed love that had survived the storm.